Virginia handed Amazon up to $773 million in public money. In return, Amazon promised 25,000 jobs, a public high school, and a landmark tower that was supposed to put this neighborhood on the map. That was 2018. It's now 2026. The tower was never built. The school was never built. The jobs? Less than a third of what was promised. And in all of 2025, Amazon added exactly 0 qualifying jobs to the deal. Meanwhile, there's an 11-acre lot in Pentagon City that Amazon paid $198 million for, and it's still empty. This is what happens when a city gives away the store and calls it economic development. That's the deal. That's where the deal stands. To understand how it got here, you have to go back to 2017, when Amazon did something no corporation had done quite like this before. It announced a nationwide search for a second headquarters, a facility it called HQ2, and invited every city, state, and region in North America to compete for it. 238 of them did. The proposals ran to thousands of pages. Local governments put together incentive packages worth billions. The search became a media event, a civic identity contest, a debate about what cities owed corporations, and what corporations owed cities. Amazon called it a $5 billion investment. It promised 50,000 jobs. The bidding was, by any measure, extraordinary. By the way, if you follow stories like this, public money, broken promises, and the neighborhoods caught in between, subscribe. I cover them every other day. The place Amazon chose, or rather, the place that won 1/2 of the prize after Amazon split the campus into 2 locations, was a stretch of Northern Virginia that barely had a name. Crystal City, Pentagon City, a corridor of the 1960s and the 1970s federal office blocks sitting just south of the Pentagon, served by 2 metro lines, 5 minutes from Reagan National Airport, and hollowed out after the Department of Defense shifted thousands of government workers away during base realignment in the 2000s. The buildings were there. The infrastructure was there. The tenants were largely gone. Arlington had been trying to reinvent this neighborhood for years. Amazon was the reinvention. In November 2018, the announcement came: National Landing, the newly branded name for the Crystal City and Pentagon City corridor, had won. Virginia offered up to $550 million in workforce cash grants, structured as $22,000 for every qualifying job. Amazon created up to 25,000 positions, all at an average wage above $150,000. Arlington added $23 million more, tied to hotel tax revenue growth. Transportation investments and infrastructure upgrades were folded into the package. The total public commitment reached up to $773 million. Virginia's governor called it a win-win for the Commonwealth. Amazon's leadership called it a long-term bet on talent and transit. The deal was structured to be self-funding on paper. No jobs, no money. Every dollar of public incentive was performance-based, tied directly to Amazon's hiring. Officials presented this as protection for taxpayers. If Amazon hired 25,000 people, Virginia would pay. If it didn't, it wouldn't. The logic seemed airtight, but the structure of the deal contained a quiet assumption that almost nobody said out loud: that Amazon would hire fast, and that the community benefits promised alongside the jobs would arrive on roughly the same timeline as the disruption. That assumption was wrong from the beginning, and the proof arrived before Amazon poured a single foundation. By mid-2019, home prices in Arlington had risen 18.9% in a single year, the fastest increase in any neighboring jurisdiction. Real estate investors poured into the market. Inventory dropped. In certain zip codes near the planned campus, listings disappeared entirely. A mile from the future headquarters, in a neighborhood its residents call Chirilagua, a majority Latinx community straddling the Arlington and Alexandria border, where median household incomes sit below 50% of the DC metropolitan area median. Residents watched their rents start climbing and understood what was coming. A 2019 survey of 285 families in that neighborhood found that roughly a third earned around $28,000 per year. Advocacy groups warned that more than 3,000 Latinx families face displacement. They called for $500 million in mitigation funding. Amazon pledged $20 million to Arlington's Affordable Housing Fund. The math didn't balance. It never would. Drop a comment below if you remember when this deal was announced. A lot of people had questions even then. To be fair to the original promise, Amazon's plan for National Landing was genuinely ambitious. Phase 1, known as Metropolitan Park or Met Park, would convert 6.2 acres of abandoned 1950s-era warehouses and surface parking in Pentagon City into two 22-story office towers. 2.1 million square feet of LEED Platinum workspace, 50,000 square feet of retail at street level, and a 2.75-acre public park would sit in the middle. That campus opened in June 2023. It was real, it was large, and by most accounts, it functioned. More than 8,000 Amazon employees moved in. Small businesses opened nearby. Metro ridership at Pentagon City grew. The National Landing Business Improvement District reported 50 new businesses opening in the years following the announcement. Phase 2 was supposed to be the transformation. The plans for Penn Place, as it was called, included 3 more 22-story office towers, a childcare center, 94,000 square feet of ground floor retail, and a 2.75-acre public open space. And at the center of it, the reason people across the region circled this project on their maps, the Helix. A 350-foot biophilic tower designed to spiral upward with an exterior wrapped in living plants, 2 helical paths climbing the outside, an indoor garden and corporate conference center at its core. The architects called it a building you could walk through like a trail. Community leaders called it a potential tourist destination. Exactly the kind of landmark that could pull visitors to a neighborhood that, for all its transit access, had never given people a reason to come. In June 2022, Arlington's County Board gave Penn Place its final approval. Amazon purchased the last remaining parcel of the 11-acre site that same month for $198 million, completing its land assembly. JBG Smith, the real estate developer partnering with Amazon on the campus, said everything was on track. Construction was supposed to begin. The Helix was supposed to rise. Then came March 2023. Amazon announced it was pausing Penn Place construction indefinitely. The timing was striking. The pause came the same month that Met Park was finishing its construction and preparing for its ribbon cutting. Celebration and retreat, announced in the same breath. The company cited economic uncertainty and said it had ample space at the existing campus to accommodate current employees. Amazon also disclosed, around the same time, that it was laying off 18,000 corporate workers globally, its largest reduction ever. JBG Smith's stock dropped roughly 8% on the day the pause was announced. The community benefits legally attached to Penn Place, the high school, the public plaza, the Helix, the retail spaces that would have supported street-level activity were now attached to a project with no timeline. And if you enjoy stories about billion-dollar projects that quietly fall apart, subscribe, because there are a lot more of them. Amazon and its partners spent much of 2024 signaling that Penn Place hadn't been abandoned. Clark Construction began utility work around the site in March 2024, running new conduits beneath South Fern Street, South Eade Street, and 12th Street South. County officials interpreted this as evidence that construction was eventually coming. Arlington County Board Chair Libby Garvey said publicly that her understanding was the delay would last roughly a year. The utility work finished in December 2024. There was no announcement of a construction start. When ARL now asked Amazon for an update, the company said there were no updates on Penn Place at this time. Behind the scenes, a more technical problem had emerged. Amazon's site plan approval carried a deadline. Under the terms of the original 2022 county approval, Amazon needed to obtain a footing to grade permit, the first step in actual construction, by April 2025, or receive an extension. The high school and public plaza use permits carried the same expiration. April 2025 came. Amazon had not broken ground, Arlington County extended the site plan through June 30th, 2028. That extension formalized the waiting. It also made explicit what had been apparent for 2 years. There is no mechanism to compel Amazon to build. The company owns the land outright. It has no external deadline that carries real consequences beyond reduced grant payments. The performance-based incentive structure that was supposed to protect taxpayers also happens to remove urgency from Amazon's side. Slow hiring means fewer grants paid. It also means fewer buildings required, fewer community benefits delivered, fewer changes to the status quo. By the end of 2025, Amazon had created 7,159 qualifying jobs at HQ2, against a contractual milestone of 11,643 that should have been reached by that date. The company is running more than 4,000 jobs behind its own schedule, with the 25,000 target still set for 2038. In its filings with the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, Amazon downgraded its confidence in reaching that goal from high to moderate. In 2025 specifically, it added 0 qualifying jobs and sought no state incentive payment. In October 2025, Amazon announced 14,000 additional corporate layoffs globally, though HQ2 was described as largely unaffected. The region absorbing those broader cuts was simultaneously dealing with massive federal job reductions tied to changes in Washington. The economic cushion Amazon was supposed to provide never fully materialized. The most recent Arlington incentive payment Amazon received was processed in September 2025. It was the first such payment the county had ever made under the deal. The amount was $81,745. That is the full amount of public money Arlington has actually transferred to Amazon under a deal that promised up to $23 million. It arrived 6 years after the agreement was signed, triggered not by job creation, but by an increase in hotel occupancy tax revenue tied to office activity at Met Park. Meanwhile, rents in National Landing have risen approximately 20.5% since the 2018 announcement, from just over $2,300 a month to around $2,777. Middle-income residents are increasingly priced out. Arlington as a whole lost 910 residents between 2020 and 2023. The Chiralagua community, the one that was warned and largely unprotected, is still there, still fighting for affordable housing commitments that meet its actual income levels. Amazon has committed more than $1.1 billion nationally through its Housing Equity Fund, targeting 9,400 affordable homes in the DC metro area. Local advocates point out that most of those commitments are targeted at households earning 60% of area median income, not the sub-50% households that make up Chiralagua. The funding exists. The gap remains. At the National Landing Business Improvement District Visitor Center, a scale model of the full National Landing campus still sits on display. Both phases are shown as complete. The towers of Met Park rise alongside the towers of Penn Place. And at the center of Penn Place, a small sculptural model of the helix rises in a graceful double spiral. It looks finished. It looks permanent. It looks like a city that kept its promises. Walk outside, cross 12th Street South, and the lot is still there. Fenced, bare, utilities stubbed under the sidewalk. The 2 real towers visible from inside the fence, their glass facades catching the afternoon light. On the other side of that fence, the helix rendering is still taped to the visitor center wall. A future that has been postponed long enough that it is beginning to look like a past that never happened. The deal Virginia and Arlington made with Amazon in 2018 was designed to protect the public. No performance, no payment. The problem is that the harms it was supposed to offset didn't wait for the performance. Housing costs rose the day the announcement was made. Displacement pressure arrived before the first Amazon employee showed up to work. The community that was told to be patient absorbed the consequences of a future that still has not fully arrived. The future itself, the helix, the school, the plaza, the 25,000 jobs, remains on extension. The fenced lot in Pentagon City holds $198 million in land, a stack of approved permits, and a model of a tower that does not exist.
Building a future turns out to be easier than promising one. If this story deserved your time, subscribing and liking the video helps others find it. Thank you.